Let's talk about what to do when your client tries to take over control of your interior design project. You know the signs, warning, red flags ahead. The client starts trying to change the procedures and protocols that you have put into place. They are starting to express unrealistic expectations about the project, how much it costs and how long it should take. They start changing the scope and telling you it was part of the project the whole time. So if you're working with a couple, one partner will take more interest in the project until you start working on something else that the other partner is really interested in, and then the project stalls. But the clients still want the same finish date. Okay, I guess you know the drill. In case we haven't met before, I'm Joanne. I'm an interior designer and business coach who helps interior designers who are starting out or scaling up to build their business from the foundations, mapping out a plan that ensures that they have the time to create rather than spending most of their time managing their projects. So in this video, we're going to talk about the things that you can do to take control of your project from the very beginning. I'm going to give you tips that you can implement in your design business. The goal is to manage the expectations for your project. You decide how you should communicate, manage, and source the elements of the project. So this is the only way that you can give your client exactly what they want. You listen to them and design an interior that fits their needs, and then you make it happen. From the outset of the client journey, you want to establish a satisfying and equal working partnership with trust on both sides. So this will lead to a positive and successful completion of your project. So in this video, I'm going to show you some ways that you can manage a successful relationship where you can act as an equal partner rather than an employee and employer relationship. First tip on how to take control of your interior design project is the client questionnaire. So after the initial inquiry, send the clients a detailed questionnaire to complete. There are many ways to do this. You can embed a form on your website and send the link to your client. You can create a form on an app like Google Forms or Typeform. You can download a PDF. But with all of these methods, make sure that the questionnaire is detailed and specific. It should look polished and professional. It should dig deep into the project and cover touchy subjects like budgets and timelines. And if you have a minimum investment amount, this is the place to say it. Clients get frustrated if they spend time filling out this form and then they find out they can't afford you or you have a really long lead time. This will form the basis of your scope of work. So make sure that all the partners in the project are part of this process and contribute equally. So moving on to the next tip, and that is once you've accepted the client questionnaire and you've set up a paid design consultation. So in theory, all parties to the design project should be present in the initial design consultation. But for various reasons, this may not be possible. So if it's not possible, the notes that you have left after the consultation should be reviewed by all parties. And if you decide that the project is a good fit for you and you'd like to proceed, you might want to schedule a short Zoom meeting to meet the other party prior to sending out your proposal. So let's move on to the next tip on how to control your interior design project. So once you've sent your proposal, and particularly if one partner wasn't present at the design consultation, schedule another Zoom meeting so that you can thoroughly walk through your process and outline how you work, how you bill, and how you communicate. If you have a certain way of working, make sure that your clients are aware that you have processes and protocols in place, and send over a copy of your client welcome guide which reiterates all these details. Now don't skip this step, even if you know or think you know these clients well. The next tip I have for you when it comes to controlling your interior design project happens at the proposal discussion meeting. So ensure you have discussed the rough timeline, the budget, and their expectations. So having a realistic expectation of how long it's going to take and how much it's all going to cost will help avoid any issues later on. So be honest and upfront. Your client will respect you for your honesty, and it will mean that you don't overpromise, which always leads to disappointment in the long run. So next, make sure that you discuss with them where their project fits in your schedule and leave them with realistic expectations of the number of projects you may be completing. Moving on, the next tip is about the welcome guide. We've mentioned this before. This guide should be professionally prepared and is a detailed document that outlines how you work. Ensure your welcome guide is as thorough as possible, and it should include, at the very least, a client's experience chart which outlines the stages of your process, the scope of work, project stages. Particularly if your clients have never renovated before, you could walk them through the build process with a rough estimated guide. Any checklists that they may need, for example, for bathrooms or laundries or specialist rooms, guidelines that explain how you work, which include things like communication methods, using a client portal, a copy of their completed questionnaire for their reference, your purchasing and procurement policy, so you need to tell them whether you charge or not, any billing and financing arrangements that you have, and your design agreement, which is your contract. This contract should be professionally prepared by a lawyer. Your client should initial any parts in the contract that mentions anything about money. This should include not only the design work, but also costs associated with sourcing, purchasing and procurement, deficiencies, and admin, including communication and the charges that result. So the next tip is managing expectations and emotions. And if you've been in business for any length of time, you know that projects are rarely exactly on time or in budget. Of course, we do all we can do to help meet those expectations. But any kind of construction process is stressful. It costs both time and money, and clients may be worried about their finances or where they're going to live and how they're going to live if living on site is impossible. And as you're probably aware, building costs are soaring for many reasons. We're living in uncertain times, and this has an effect on the timeline and the costs of projects. However, you're there to handle any issues that may arise to their satisfaction. So make sure that you handle them with compassion and empathy. And you do this all the time, but they don't. So the next point is communication, communication, communication. Make sure that you send them a regular email. I suggest weekly in the initial stages and more often in the construction stage, particularly if there may appear to be a lull in the project. Lulls make clients very nervous. So if something is not going according to plan, let them know sooner rather than later. Make sure you have a strict protocol for communication and that you don't have to piece together communications from your WhatsApp, email, phone calls, etc. And if you really need to communicate something important and anything, which is anything that involves time or money, this should be in writing and you will need a written response back. Don't allow the client to change your methods of communication. This is a sure way to make a mistake that will cost you time and money, let alone the client's time and money. And the final tip I have is managing your timeline. So make sure you're following your program and completing your work in the timeline that you have promised. If for some reason this timeline doesn't work, make sure that the client knows. And sometimes things happen. Coffee tables fall off cargo ships. An accessory gets damaged. Be upfront and make sure that the customer knows and you have a plan about how it can be resolved. And this builds trust between you and your client. So if you're curious to explore more about how to manage clients, then click the link in my description to access my blog where I dive deeper and give you even more tips on how to manage your client relationships. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next one.